This is going to be, this is my second attempt at doing a Claret Shipman's buzzer. I've got a size 12, it's a medium wire, it's a light to medium wire hook in a vise, and I've got Claret thread attached. The thread is a Claret Danville's, if that's of any interest. It's a nice looking Claret. And simply dressing the hook, it's a hook that gets fully covered in dubbing, so it's not dressing it to put close turns of thread and things. I don't fuss with that too much. The first material to be attached is this, which is too large for the camera. It's polypropylene yarn, and this stuff comes typically at the end of each turn. It's bent. So what I do, I think most people do this, is I take a length, the width of the card, cut it at the bend, which is always a piece that gets cut off and chucked away. Now that's a single strand of this card. The amount that's in a strand on a card varies quite a lot. For this fly, I'm going to cut this down by about a third. So I'll just use my double needle to get rid of some of the. And if I'm careful and I leave that to one side, I'll use that for another fly. I've already got a bundle sitting there. So there's the bundle, and I'm just going to catch that in on top of the shank. And at this stage what I like to do is take my thread all the way along and position the breathers. These are breathers. These are we call them that. If you see a buzzer, on a natural buzzer, they've got breather filaments like gills on their front and aft at the tail and at the head. I think when this fly was conceived, I'm not quite sure what was going through Dave Shipman's mind, but it's a fly that I think, when it's dressed and floating and in the surface film, it represents an insect that's about to hatch. It represents one that has already hatched, and it's the shucks that are left. It's maybe a group of flies or stillborns that have merged together. All those things that a fish that's feeding in the top 2 or 3 inches of water on a reservoir is just swimming along, pushing the nose through the film and just swallowing down groups of these things. And when they feed on those, they use the minimum of cues. They're not counting legs, they're not checking blood pressure, they're not trying to identify in that police verity sort of sense. They're actually they're going through a routine that means that they use the minimum effort, minimum of energy to get the maximum return. It's that economy equation that people sometimes mention when they're talking about how fish thrive. And this is an ideal opportunity for that, when buzzers are hatching in numbers and fish can feed on these things, and that's when the Shipman comes into its own. My next step is I'm going to tie on the rib for this, and the rib is this stuff, which will be nice and sparkly on the frame. It's a pearly tinsel. This happens to be Mirage, and it's medium diameter, medium width, not diameter. So I'm cutting a length, and now this material is it stretches. So if I want to make a tight rib, this will stretch a little bit, and it'll always be a slightly relaxed rib. So what I do is I pull it, and it's quite firm, and you should be able to see that stretching, and it reaches a point where it won't stretch anymore, and I think it's there. Can you see that it's changed colour? And if I show you the unstretched bit next to the stretched bit, you can see how much it's changed width. And what happens then is I've got something that's a bit stiffer. It won't stretch quite as much when I make the rib, when I tie it I tie it across the seals for sub dub body. So I'm going to put that in under the hook shank and catch it into the back of the shank. I don't want to go down to onto the bend at all. You want this to be flat. I've seen these tied on curved hooks and it's not the same fly. This was conceived in a straight shank hook, and it should be tied in a straight shank hook. The dubbing I'm using is a good seal sub, and if I can pull some out of the packet. There are many clarets, and this is one of them. This is it's a reddish claret. I think they call it blood claret. I would call it a good strong red claret. Claret is well, in certain parts of the world you get an argument about different shades of claret and things. There's one or two standard dyes, but it's a combination of colours, and I don't think there's a standard reference for it really. It's sort of dark red or blood red with a touch of brown or blue or something in it to make it muddied. So it's a combination of colours. I'm doing this quite slim. I don't particularly want a fat blob. I want a slim-ish fly. And I'm going to come right up to the point where the hook bends at the eye, and then I'm going to bring the thread behind the eye. That's where I'll tie off. And you can see it's already a shaggy sort of buggy mess. It's not meant to be accurately depicting legs and things. I'd put this in the same sort of category as bumbles and those sort of flies. Bob's bits and things come to mind as well. It's from about that time. Now if I get that two there, come over with the thread. You can, I mentioned this in the piece, I'm just doing this as is with the rib. If that's a worry to you, this is tough stuff. This is Mirage Mylar. It's tough stuff. If it's a worry to you, then I would over rib. So you would take a second rib of fine wire on the same pattern, going over the same path as the first one, which works very well. And this fly it fishes a wash, so it's a fly that sits in the surface film, but it is a dry fly, and I would always be treating this with gink. The breathers are polypropylene, polypropylene yarn, which is less dense than water, so technically those float, but there's not enough of them to float a hook, I don't think. And a little bit of gink or one of the good powdered floatants solves that problem pretty quickly. Now, that's it tied off. Drop of varnish at the head, pull down this so it's over the eye, and then cutting these breathers to the length you require is really personal choice. I tend to do them, I think it's about the length of the hook shank, about there, and about the same at the back. And of course you can adjust that. You can, if you cut them long, you can always cut them shorter at the back. But that would be how I would fish it. And this would be ginked up and fished usually as a team of 3. On a small water, I will fish this as a single fly and try and target cruising fish. If you're fishing a ripple and you see a fish move and can work out where it's, in which direction it's moving, it's the sort of fly that you can put a few yards ahead of a moving fish, a cruising fish, and it can generate some tremendous sport. It can be a real enjoyable fly to fish with. So that's my version of a Claret Shipman's. I do those in a number of different colours: orange, claret, black, amber, and those sorts of colours, fiery brown. You know, I've got a small box of Shipman's and related flies, so buzzers and hoppers, and it's a good fly. So I hope that's of use to you.